Harlan Fines, the spokesperson for Human Rights Watch, and she would also talk about this. For those of you who are just coming in, we're talking about the meltdown in Egypt, and we just want to hear what Africans in Africa and outside of Africa think about, of course, now, what all of us think about. So, Tamara, from the point of human rights, how is it that there's not an uprising or uproar within the human rights community when the democratic government is not off the table just like that by visual power like the US?
Wow, that's a provocative question to throw at me in front of such an august assembly. Thank you so much, Lisa, for inviting Human Rights Watch to the table, to the Africa Roundtable. It's really an honor for me to represent Human Rights Watch in front of a very informed public, as I see. And I must admit I was extremely attracted to the way you introduced this topic in your initial email, particularly the question about, is Egypt even part of Africa? I'm going to have to throw this question back at the audience at the end. I just can start with a small anecdote about a conversation I had a couple of days ago with a friend of mine where we were debating whether a country becomes a regional power or a power generally by virtue of having military or financial advantages, or whether a country is de facto a power in a region because of its strategic location. And I think it's fair to say that Egypt is at the crossroads between two continents and even between north and south that gives it a specificity that is very strategic to it geographically. Now, as a part of Africa, I am a spokesperson for the Middle East and North Africa, and I cover Egypt. So I guess it is in many ways. Now, how do we address the situation in Egypt today without, looking at the overall roller coaster that has shaken the country for the past, almost 3 years now? It's very difficult to dissociate the situation today that you very eloquently described from the overall situation that has started in January 2011. I'm not going to speak about the stagnation of the 30 years before. I'm going to start with what happened in January 2011 and say that ever since then, the succession of events or coups that you are failing now to count have really shaken the country. The events have led to real political turmoil, but more importantly, to an extremely divided and polarized society today. That is making the political process itself a very difficult one when the society is really seems to be broken in two. Now, let's take a close shot at where Egypt is today, because this is what Human Rights Watch is now focusing on. We have these massive protests that have started in support of the ousted President Mohamed Morsi. And facing them, we have an interim government that has authorized, and I quote, the use of all necessary means to disperse the protest. The government has therefore mandated the security forces to, and between brackets, and I do acknowledge the presence of an Egyptian diplomat, but the government has mandated security forces that are not very known for their human rights record, and that have at times used excessive force to disperse demonstrations, at least I'm talking about over the past few years. The government has mandated them with dispersing the protesters. Not good. In addition, Egypt's Ministry of Interior rules are generally overbroad, and they generally allow the police to use firearms in ways that are that go beyond the international standards, namely the UN standards. So, meanwhile, in the background, diplomatically, the EU very promptly suspended Egypt's membership in the Union, and as we speak, you probably all know that there is a high-level EU delegation visiting Egypt this week until the 7th of August, and it has already met with the interim president, Adli Mansour, with the vice president, Mohamed Baradari, with the Minister of Defense, General Sisi, and more importantly for us at Human Human Rights Watch with the Minister of Transitional Justice and National Reconciliation. This is what matters to us. Transitional justice and national reconciliation, or as my friend mentioned today, national unity, are looking at a way to move out of that political deadlock that we have reached today in Egypt. What would be the immediate steps that Human Rights Watch would recommend? Well, first of all, security forces should not forcibly disperse the city. There are ways to deal with riots, and there are ways to deal with sit-ins, and forcibly dispersing them is not a way that we recommend as a human rights organization. In addition to that, security forces should not treat the entire demonstration on the basis of violence that is seen by some members of that demonstration. So we can't deny that there is violence on the part of demonstrators. There has been, it's documented. But this is no reason to treat the entire group in the same way, and if only watching images on TV we realize how massive the demonstrations are. We're not talking about hundreds of people, tens of thousands of people. Now, on the other hand, political leaders, the leaders of these demonstrators, should really be sending strong messages urging their followers to exercise restraint in order not to unleash that violence that will then lead to an excessive use of force by the riot police and the security forces.